This is the talk of Music City Real Estate.
Welcome back to another episode of the Talk of Music City Real Estate,
where we educate and motivate all things real estate.
My name is Monty Moore with Realty One Group Music City.
Hey, and I'm Carey Ann with CMG Financial and my mortgage team.
Every week we'll be posting a new episode chock full of Nashville real estate value.
Yes, and you can follow along and subscribe at talkmusiccity.com.
Got a question for us? Ask away at questions@talkmusiccity.com.
Monte, Jason.
How's it going?
So good to see you.
We have a guest here today with us, and I'm excited to hear from, although I hate the topic we're going to be talking about. Can you imagine this?
Such an important topic.
Can you imagine this, Jason Huber? Can you imagine Mindy, your wonderful wife, your amazing lady, out showing property for that last 3 months, gets the deal, you know, you're getting to the closing table and the people are excited. They've got 20 years of equity built up in this home, and they're going to take that $250,000, $300,000, and they're going to, depending on where they're at, some areas bigger than that, of course, and they're going to apply that to a home. And you've warned them about this thing called wire fraud, but they just kind of half-heartedly listened, and you had them even sign a document on that topic, but they kind of just said, well, it's, whatever, because, you've surrounded yourself with people that are trustworthy. And so they've learned to trust those people that you've got in your circle as a professional, and they get an email that it looks like you've been copied on it. It looks like Midtown's been copied on it. It looks like Carey Ann's even been copied on it. But they don't look close at the email address, because a lot of times, correct me if I'm not right here, a lot of times they'll take Jason at the Hoover team at AOL, something like that. It'll have the full context of that email into one forwarded to AOL. Can you imagine, though, this whole scenario that you've gone through, only to find out that when Midtown does call to get the wire transfer completed, the lady on the other end says, well, we already sent the money.
Oh, my.
I mean,
it
we've
just gives you goosebumps.
We've had a couple of agents get that response. It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking on so many levels that we're going to get into this here with Mr. Chris Corriveau from Midtown. Chris, we're glad to have you with us, and we're going to get into this, but we're going to talk about our sponsor first, but let's do that. Okay?
Yes,
I'm sorry for getting down into that pit, but I started visualizing how painful that is,
right, and
how awful it is, and I actually saw myself shooting that person. I would shoot that person who did that. Okay, honestly would, or hang them and then shoot them. I'm not sure.
We're gonna go straight to our sponsor. Here we go.
Another show.
That's a different show. Hey, and it's Music City Removal. They are the #1 junk removal service in Nashville from residential, commercial, and construction. They're experts in ridding of your junk. Their costs include labor and dumping fees without any hidden or added expenses. Whether you need a full clean out or just one item removed, they have you covered.
Do they pick up dead bodies? I'm just kidding. I'm sorry for going on that path.
He's going down there.
The Music City Removal team knows the importance of respect and trust while in someone else's home. They understand the inconvenience of junk left behind in previous homeowners and tenants, and are determined to provide an affordable and customer-focused junk removal service that puts you first. For a free on-site estimate, go to musiccityremoval.com. That's musiccityremoval.com.
Yes, Music City Removal, because cluttering cute. Nor is wire fraud, and we're going to talk all about that today.
We're going to talk all about it. Now, listen up, guys. Our real estate peers, this is really, really, really important, okay? I know you've heard it before. I know you don't think it's important, or you're just tired of it, or it's not going to be a problem to you.
Oh, it is.
Our company in the last month and a half or so has had 2 cases that the people lost money. Now, one of them supposedly got the money back. We haven't heard yet on the second one, but it can happen to anybody. We've been doing this a long time, and we've had some close calls, but we hadn't had anybody actually lose money, and it's a heartbreaking thing when you think that all this time, all this energy, maybe the time of building a house or whatever, and all of a sudden that money is gone. And Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it usually gone? There's no, I think part of the challenge here, I'm sorry for going on here, but I think part of the challenge, and this is what I want to make sure that the agents are aware of, is part of the challenge is we think that if somebody steals my credit card, there's a limit. I'm not too concerned about, what is it, $50, $250 or something like that. There's a limit of how bad I can be scammed with a credit card, or somebody taps into my bank account. But this kind of scenario, if there's $250,000 equity being transferred to the wrong people, isn't that money gone? Chris?
For the most part, it is gone. Monty, first of all, Carey Ann, thank you for
Yes.
having me on the show
Sorry.
today.
Monty got really excited.
He
and
did get
he
really
just
excited.
assumes everybody in the world knows you. So
well,
welcome,
everybody
Chris.
should. Owner of Midtown Title, right?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, one of the top title companies in town, and so
Absolutely.
we're very grateful to have you with us today.
Sorry
and
for
you're a
jumping ahead
pro
of
at
things.
educating many people because you've seen it firsthand, on the wire fraud. So, talk more about it. It could happen to all of us.
It can.
It's a
Very easy.
situation, and you may be sitting out there. It's not going to happen to you. That's the person that are looking for.
Yes.
It's the person that would not happen to. It will happen. And so talk more about that.
So I always say that why do people rob banks, right? They go to rob banks because that's where the money's at.
Yes.
Okay. So why do people target people who are buying houses? Because they're getting ready to spend money.
Right, and lots of them.
And lots and lots of money. They're very stressed. They're very busy. They're going through, our whole process is almost digital anymore, right? Carey Ann, you guys have a great digital process where people go through this to make it seamless and easy for folks because everybody's life is busy.
Right.
The downfall to part of that is that, people just assume that everything that they get is the word.
It's valid,
It's
yeah.
valid. And they don't
True.
do any checking. They just act on it and they just go because they're like, oh my gosh, it's the house. I got to go. I got to
Right.
go.
They asked me to do it, so I'm going to do it.
I'm going to do it right now. And, these are very high-tech criminal organizations.
Right.
This is not some guy who's got a iPod or iPad who's sitting in his mom's basement trying to figure out how to hack into your system. These
Right.
are worldwide criminal organizations that sit and lie and wait for
And watch.
Weeks, months, years. And all they want is one person just to slip that one time. That's
And they
it.
get in.
And then they swoop in and get them. So it's really important to understand, Monty and Carey Ann and Jason, how does it kind of happen? What goes on? What is this? And so there's a difference between people's systems getting hacked and getting broken into as opposed to somebody getting a spoofed email or a fake email or a fraudulent email. And so a lot of people, what they get is they don't use secure emails if they're doing their business. They may have a Gmail account. Everybody does. Everybody has Gmail,
Right.
Outlook, Hotmail. I have my work account, and then I have my personal account that I send stuff to. And so people work through these email accounts because they don't want to send their private stuff through their work. The problem is that when you're working with unsecure emails, because you get a free account, so free, I love free, it's in my budget. But the problem with free is that you don't get any of the security features that
Right.
that your work or your business emails may have. And typically these accounts are actually mined by the providers to sell that data to third-party vendors so they can direct market you stuff. They want to sell you something. Google, get a Gmail, they want to try to sell you stuff.
Right.
So, you're better off standing on the street corner hollering what's in your...
I'll never forget
Nothing's
you
ever
saying
for
that.
free, right? That's what we
Yes.
all have to
I'll
remember.
never forget you saying that at a class that you gave to us at Carey Ann's place a few years ago. That I remember that visual that you might as well be standing on the side of the busy corner and just shouting it out to everybody your business information because it's that easily available.
It's that free, so you just don't get the security features that I, Carey Ann, or Jason all have that are industry standards in our business that we have to have in order to protect people's privacy and information that goes on.
But again, you'd think Gmail would be safe, be secure.
Of course, but if it's free,
Yeah.
I mean, you're not getting any of the upgrades that you would have in a typical email setting. So, I mean, Gmail does offer a paid service.
Right. We have that.
You have that. G Suite's what it is, and then you can start getting some of that extra stuff. We laugh all the time about the IRS because the IRS they communicate through faxing. And people go, who has a fax machine?
Right.
There's a thing called electronic faxes now, by the way.
Right.
Nobody really has our machine going on. So,
Yeah, I had one of those one time.
yes, but the reason that the IRS uses fax machines is because it's a direct point-to-point contact. Okay, so they'll mail you something or they will fax you something. They will not allow emails, and so because it's a secure connection. I had my IT people tell me one day that if you ever want to avoid wire fraud situations, and you never need to communicate via email, which is impossible, right?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's just not going to happen in our industry. People are busy. And so what we have to do as a unit, as a team here, is continually try to educate one another about how to better protect our customers and our clients who may not be as educated as we are about it.
And we have to forget, we sometimes forget that it takes a village to close a transaction. So all of those people could affect the buyer some way. So these people that are hacking in could come through insurance agent, get to buyer, right? Title, get to buyer. Agent, get to buyer. Lender, get to buyer. Anybody and everybody can get to that buyer's email address and then follow to see exactly what's happening, to a point where they send a wire request and put your name on it, title company's name on it, lender's name on it. The situation that just happened over the last 30 days, I wasn't associated with that, but it was with a very well-known mortgage company and one of the top loan officers in town. So I know for a fact they put strategies in place. I used to work at that location, right? So I know that they have that. So, but how did they get hacked? It could come from anybody and anything is what the situation is happening with.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that people don't even realize that don't work in our industry that could be a problem. When you have free emails, one of the things I tell people to do is avoid free Wi-Fi's. How many people do you see in Starbucks or Panera that are just sitting in there working all day? If they're somewhere out and about, they hop on somebody's Wi-Fi. How do you know whose Wi-Fi you're even on? It could say Carey Ann's the greatest loan officer, Wi-Fi.com, but how do you know that's actually Carey Ann's Wi-Fi?
Right, that's true.
So people are just freely clicking on these free Wi-Fi's, and as soon as you do that, it's like opening the book. And
so even with a secure email address, using a public Wi-Fi that's opening
it's problematic.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Problematic, okay.
Now it depends on some of the stuff, the security features you have on your email. Okay, I mean there are things that we can talk about, some extra security measures that people can do to protect themselves. But yes, anytime you're getting something for free, there's that word again, right? Free. You have to be concerned that there's problems that are going to follow from that if you're getting the free stuff. If I'm out and about and working somewhere or I'm traveling, I either just use my cell phone hotspot. I won't even get on hotel Wi-Fi's anymore.
Oh, really?
No.
Yeah.
I will not get on hotel Wi-Fi's. I will not get on other people's Wi-Fi's just because of what I have learned over the years of
that's really good to know. No.
I just try to eliminate risk where I can, period.
Well, because you personally have, we all do, have a lot of their information, because of me holding onto their social security number and everything, we have transferred links, and I'm surprised how many clients just email over stuff just freely. With no concern at all, pay stubs, W-2s and things like that. So, taking a moment to continue to educate is so important. People want to be us. I saw an email over from my owner, the president of the company. His initials are CMG, right? So this is the owner. He and I are friends. I would have no issue responding to him quickly, and I was about to respond to him, and I just happened to glance at the email address, and it was so and so and so and so at Gmail. So the name was his, but it wasn't his email address. But I was almost caught, in the mix of it. Now, I do think our corporate office does that to catch how many people mess up, to keep us on our toes all the time. So we do, because I do think a lot of people, without being trained, practice builds confidence. So you have to continue to, see that stuff coming at you to know that it's fake, and or know that things can happen. But like you were sharing that a phishing email could be a little bit different than a hacking situation.
That's correct. A phishing email is just where a fraudster is just basically reaching out to gauge your interest to see if you nibble on that. Okay, just to buy. A hacked email or if we have an intrusion, that's the word really I think our people use is intrusion, is if somebody got inside our network itself. We've somehow, some way, we've provided credentials to somebody because we're a victim of that, and they're actually impersonating us inside our system, sending information in and out of our servers. Our IT company can actually track that. They're able to see IP addresses, which are like phone numbers, right? So they're able to track and see if there's been any intrusions, any remote logins that aren't flagged. Like we have these alerts that pop up if these things try to happen that notify that we've had an intrusion on our system. We actually have to have intrusion tests done on our network about at least once a year. We do them a couple times a year. They're very expensive. Very, very expensive.
I would assume we do as well because our IT is, so secure,
Yes.
and that's important to a point where you're supposed to lock this and you're supposed to do that, and just from within your own office. So everything is needing to be secure. But we forget that. What about that client's account at so-and-so other company got hacked, right? Meaning
Yes.
it's not about us all the time. The client can get hacked somehow, some way through different strategies. Yes?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, if, like I said, they could be a victim themselves and not even know it.
Right.
They could have clicked on some link that they thought was an accurate email or something that they were supposed to open, and all of a sudden it's put ransomware or malware or something on their system. And there's a thing called like a Keystroke Bot out there. I've learned all this stuff where they can put this malware on there, and they basically can just watch as you sit there and type on your computer, word for word. Everything you're typing, it's just meant they can see it on their screen, and so that's how they know. And a lot of people don't know. You hear these stories on these commercial sale stuff where people are selling your stuff on the dark web. I mean, that stuff exists. I mean, you can go to the dark web, and there's, I don't know how to get to it, but you can see, when people have compromised emails or vulnerabilities in their systems and websites and stuff, and determine that that the people that do have a trouble.
Well, I mean, also the dollar figure may determine which one they want to go after. Maybe they view all parties, but, hook the person that has to wire the most money a little bit more because they're going to make the most.
Sure.
And why not try? And if that individual bites. But I think the last transaction you guys were speaking about was a $300,000, wire, right? That went out.
Well, the one last week was $52,000 that they lost. One prior to that with another company that we know, it was $300,000. The one before that was $101,000.
Yeah, I mean, those are large numbers,
Yes.
and so strategies, it all starts at the beginning. Scripting at the beginning, I think, is so important, from real estate agent to lender to title company. We're all speaking the same language, so everybody's aware. We went as far as communicating it on the upfront. We send a document out to them about beware. You don't want to scare them, but you want to make sure that they are truly aware. Like, do not, I'm just going to do this. No, don't do that. Don't do anything until proper guidance is given,
Here's a stat for you right here. The average ransomware, which is where somebody's on your computer and they lock you out and they say, we're not going to give you access until you pay us, nets $722. Okay. The average bank robbery nationwide averages $3,816 take. The average closing scam averages $130,000 number.
Wow.
So do you want to know why people are so heck bent on targeting this industry and going after that? Because they can make a lot of money in a really short amount of time, and they're working with people who just, if you go rob a bank, how many times does a bank have security in place, right? I mean, it's a little harder to rob a bank than normal.
Right.
Malware, it's only it's what it is, but people can click on something. But in our business, there's just a lot of people involved. It's like a wagon wheel, right? There's all these spokes on the wheel, and everybody's working, and all they want to do is just find somebody who's, like I said, just slip. But at an average take of $130,000.
Yeah, I think one thing that's really, everybody listening has got to remember this, is that unless you have special insurance, you're not covered probably. I mean, our homeowners insurance, we found out, we have an umbrella policy, so we've got, I think, a $50,000 coverage, something like that. But unless you get a policy covering this kind of a thing, your insurance isn't going to cover it. I know that. We've checked into that. So you agents out there, please take this to heed. This is a really, really serious thing. Again, I think we've gotten lulled into thinking that because most fraud has got some sort of limitation to it. This fraud doesn't, and I just can't imagine the compounded agony on so many levels of looking somebody in the eye and saying, that's real. You actually lost that money. I mean, recently, a lady in our office, Doris, she kept telling her client, the money's gone. And the client just didn't understand it, didn't get it, didn't believe her. And she had to keep telling her, I'm sorry, the money's gone.
So when people go, they're like, okay, just like your credit card. If you had a fraudulent charge on your credit card, we were talking in between the break about people who have credit card situations, and you just call your credit card company and you're like, hey, these are fraudulent charges, and the credit card company goes, okay, we'll fraud, and we'll move it off and go from there, because you didn't do it. Right? Neither one of you did that. Somebody else did that, and you didn't make those charges. Well, guess what happens
You're right.
when a person wires money to a fraudster and they go to their bank and say, hey, this was a fraudulent transfer.
You're like, you did it.
Guess who signed that authorization wire transfer form authorizing their bank to send that money to that person? They weren't there at gunpoint.
Right.
It wasn't done by somebody. You have to go to the bank to wire money. You can't just text in your banker and say, hey, banker, wire me $150,000 over to Midtown Title.
Right.
So the bank looks at them and goes, what do you want me to, they'll look at them and go, you did it. We did what you asked us to do.
Yeah.
So there's no fraud from our perspective. You did everything freely on your own.
Right. That's so hard.
One thing I was shocked about when you first started talking about this, Chris, was a lot of times that money then is sent to a large bank like a SunTrust or a Chase, not to pick on either one of those. But I thought, as naive as I was on the topic, well, those banks will step up and say, okay, well, we have some ownership in this situation, so we'll cover it or we'll do something here. But they don't care. It's not their problem.
That's right. And so I don't think everybody realizes that it takes time to get money out of the country. The goal is to money to disappear. They want these fraudsters want the money to disappear, and they want to get it out of the country to go wherever it is. There's obviously hotspot countries that are more prevalent than some of the others, but they need the money to get out of the country, and it takes about a week. So the first thing that they have people do is wire it to one of the banks, usually one of the bigger ones. Not
so it makes sense. So it doesn't look weird.
Doesn't look weird.
Right.
They're very prominent banks. And the first thing that they do when these people get a chance is they take it out of that account because they want to swipe the account and get the money gone, put it in 10 accounts, 20 accounts. And then they split that up and put it in 15, 20 more. And the chances of tracing this money down after that happens is virtually impossible until they can get it out of the country. It may take them 100 accounts to get it out of the country, but they will get it out, and it'll be untraceable, and they'll never find it.
That's so scary.
132,000 average. And here's the other part that I hope our listeners remember is that if you're not stressing with your client the importance of this topic, and having them sign documents that they've acknowledged you've talked about this and initialed off on it and so forth, you are standing in the line of fire as a professional. That's my understanding. I understand a couple of agents here locally had to file bankruptcy because of that.
Yes.
They lost.
But yes, because their systems were not adequate and they did not have the protective measures in place. Your industry, Monte, Carey Ann, your industry, in my industry, Jason, yours too, has, we've gotten really aggressive trying to be proactive to try to protect clients. It's helping, but it's not fixing the problem, and so we have all these forms and documents that got to get signed. And I'm not with the clients on the front end. I don't know how deep people dig into these documents and explain this, but people are all nervous, they're excited, and a lot of times they just don't hear the message.
Well, there's so much coming at them at one time. That's why I've been sharing with our team is, look, you can't just hang your hat on the fact that you had a document signed. That's nice. Well, you had a bunch of documents signed. They don't remember any of those things. By the time it was all done, it was become a blur. You can jump up and down and scream and holler and before they sign that one, but it's still a blur as far as they're concerned because they don't do this every day. We've got to be as proactive as we can. And so, one of the things that we're trying to do is actually create a protocol with your help, because I totally trust you in this process, because I know your buffering of this potential is even greater than ours because you're dealing with the money, which I got to tell you that I don't know how you live in that kind of pressure, because I'm assuming, unfortunately for you, that if there is a loss, that they look to the title company, they look to the title attorney, right?
That's right, yes. Because we're the front line of the people who ask for money.
Right, and you're the most organized of the whole process, that you guys and the mortgage company, of course. It's the loose sometimes comes from the real estate industry, I'm afraid.
Well, you can go to any one of our websites and freely see our logos. You can see our names. You can see our addresses. You can see usually our email addresses, our phone numbers. And you know how easy it is just to cut and paste and create what looks like an authentic email from either one of us.
Right.
And just be able to send that. So
I think the anxiety when they could see the finish line so close, right? The client can, and they start to get this, and not everybody, but they start some people, and just maybe it's age related too, but there's some people that
careful.
And it could be younger, meaning they've never done it before, so they have that anxiety too, meaning it's just maybe it's something new or they're just how they are, but they want to move their money. They want to do it now. And the lender is not yet prepared because the CD's not yet finalized, and or we're working back and forth to get exact figures, but they want to send the money, and they see an email that says send the money. So, they just sometimes, want to jump to get it all squared away. So it is hard to slow people down. We have to pause and follow certain protocols for all of us.
Here's something so
safe.
easy that happens in our business all the time. We have to produce proof of earnest money checks or payments, right? If people email those unsecure and they're sending a copy of a check out that's got the account number, routing number, and everything else, that's the answers to the test again. So, people just freely email or email these copies around, and if they're emailing from somebody's email who's been compromised, they already got the person's name, they've already got their routing number, they already got their account number to their checking account, phone number, everything that they need. So, one of the things we instruct people to do is if you're going to email stuff, you need to redact that information. Get a Sharpie.
But you can't, because the lender's going to say, now I can't use it. So
You're kidding.
I can't cross anything out. It's not allowed. So they do that, and then I say, so sorry, you have to send it without that
what's
information.
the answer?
They have to use a secure transfer. But example, earnest money. People throw it around all the time. I need an earnest money check without any scratch outs. That's what's required for me to be able to document.
I guess that would make sense from your standpoint.
Yeah. So, the problem is yes, what you're saying totally makes sense, but from a lender standpoint, I can't do that. So you're back and forth, with the pull and tug.
Now, as an old play for Midtown Title here, we have a system called Earnest, which is a digital earnest money payment processing, which is done over an ACH, and it's an instantaneous payment, and all they have to do is they go into the secure portal, and they're able to code the information in, and the funds are immediately transferred. No checks. Who carries checks nowadays, by the way? Not very many people, and everybody involved gets notification, and there's no transferring of copies of checks or anything like that. So, we continue to try to provide stuff to our folks that makes it convenient but also safe for them to.
So you would have verification of the money that she's looking for, though.
Yeah, because she would be on the email. She would.
Yeah, but we'd have to go a step further and get the bank statement from the other to show proof it came out of that account. And it's just taking a moment and making sure that you use all of the tools that so many of us have to make it safer for the buyer, right? And us as real estate agents and everybody out there listening to continue to educate. Don't assume they know. Nobody does. And just like people are going to still co-sign for loans, they're still going to buy the boat when they weren't supposed to, they're just going to continue to do those things. All we can continue to do is put processes in place, continue the scripting, educate, on a regular basis. And stories sell. Right. Story. Continue to share the story. The 3 stories that you just shared. Let's pause here. This is a really important part of the process. Let's talk about wire fraud. Let me share with you 3 recent stories. We don't want that to happen to you, right? And just that would just step you up, I think, and elevate you as a real estate agent.
And I agree 1,000%. And they'll remember it's going to be hard for them to deny that they heard those stories and that you weren't emphatic about it. And again, I hate to say this, but a lot of this is CYA kind of stuff because we have to do that. Otherwise, we're standing in the line of fire. All of us here have to do that. But I think long as we are making, first of all, the security of that client number one priority. Is what's really critical. But
they can love the process all the way to the end, and if it's frustrating at the end, or they're not happy, or this happens to them, they just won't ever think that the home buying process is something enjoyable, right? And or they're going to blame you, they're going to blame me, even though it wasn't you or me. That's just going to be what's in their mind. So we want to already be thinking that 2 steps ahead always, and make sure that they're protected.
So one of the questions we get then is, okay, then we'll just won't wire. We'll bring a check, right? We'll send a check or whatever we have to do, and our state has certain laws that just won't allow those for certain dollar amounts. Okay, and
what is it, over 10?
So it's if it's less than $1,000, an escrow company like myself can take a personal check if we choose to. Now, nobody says we have to, but by law we can take a personal check up to $1,000. We can take a cashier's check up to $5,000. Okay, so you could go to the bank and get a cashier's check. It cannot be more than $5,000. And what I want to point out about that is that's not statute. Okay, what that is based off what the industry standard is for our E&O insurances. Okay, we have limitations of what our E&O insurances will. So think about like an overlay,
Sure,
right? So
right.
our industry, when I go get insurance to protect me on this is what they allow for us to do. The statute just says that the seller, we have to be able to produce, the buyer must produce good funds to a seller. So basically, if the seller wanted $300,000 in singles, we would have to produce $300,000 in singles to this person. I hope not ever. But if so, that's what has to happen. So if you have checks, they're uncollected. They still have to run through the process of doing that. And then wire is why we require that, because the funds are good and they're there, and we cannot do ACHs because an ACH can be retractable and disputed for up to 60 days after the transfer date. And so if somebody says, I don't want to wire, I'll just go ACH it to you, which is like an electronic payment, right?
Right.
Somebody can go 60 days beyond the transfer date and dispute it, and the funds could be retracted out of your account. Could you imagine owning your house and 60 days later somebody says,
Right.
hey, I don't
We
really
don't want
like
that.
this. Yeah. And so these are the reasons we have to do this, and I understand the reasons, and I understand it protects everybody involved, but it's just created this humongous problem for everybody involved.
Well, I don't think I think overstated the importance of it. One thing we're going to do, and we can wrap up here as our training, is we're going to show examples. What I've asked for is all the people who've had problems, because when I got to investigating further, I found out there were 7 different agents within our organization that had some sort of, their client raised their hand and said, hey, I got this email, it's not real, right? And they kind of blew it off. So I've got all these examples that we're going to show at our trainings to give them an idea of what people are doing, what that looks like. You mentioned the cutting and pasting, that's part of it, logos and so forth, but it's also, there's a pattern of what most of them are using, and most of them it's at an AOL address with the rest of their context in place. But Chris, thanks so much for bringing us here with this topic. We appreciate you being part of this conversation. I can't imagine the pressure. How many transactions do you guys close them
Last year we closed right at 5,000. So we've helped a bunch of folks, but I just appreciate you guys taking the knowledge to the people so they can just be educated in this process, because there's so much misinformation out there, but you guys are just trying to help everybody in this transaction just be safe. And so thank you.
We really
for doing that.
I hate these people that are doing this. And how's an agent that's wanting to work with a dynamic title company that they can trust, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, they can absolutely. So we have several ways, but my phone number is 615-921-8684. You can also go to our website at midtowntitletn.com. It's got a great little title calculator on there, so if you ever want to know what title cost is on there. So those are 2 ways that you can reach me. My email is Chris, C-H-R-I-S, at midtowntitletn.com. Would love to talk with you, even if you're just somebody that's just trying to get some input about how to be a better professional. I'm more than happy to have that conversation.
Yes.
Chris, I got to put in a plug for you. After 37 years of doing this and thousands of homes sold, I've always told our agents, look, it doesn't matter how great a job you've done. The last thing that they remember is the experience around that table. And if that title performance, if that closing attorney hasn't done a great job, it reflects on your judgment. I hate it when I see agents just going along with the flow. Whoever's got the deal is that they don't have a loyalty to a top company. And I think with this kind of information, it only encourages me to say, make sure you've got the right people in your corner, because it's a reflection on your professionalism at the end of the day.
Thanks, Monte. And you guys, we love working with you guys. And these are the reasons why, because you care, you're invested in your customers, and those are the people that we want to work with too.
Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you again, Chris. Again, great title company, Midtown Title. Come back next week. You've been listening to The Talk of Music City Real Estate.